History repeats itself, first as tragedy, second as farce. This adequately describes the scene we are seeing here today in Brazil, as fascists have overrun the capital of Brasilia in an attempt to force the disposed former president Jair Bolsonaro back into power. Newly elected President Lula da Silva condemned the invasion as a fascist attack as security forces reclaimed the Congress building after hours of chaos. During the time, a January 6 U.S.-style invasion of the Congress building took place by Bolsonaro supporters. The attempted fascist insurrection required a large operation on the part of Brazilian security forces to bring under control. The Bolsonaro supporters stormed Congress, the presidential palace, and the Supreme Court. Security forces used riot police on horseback, water cannons, and tear gas bombs fired from helicopters to fight them back. Newly elected President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva condemned the attack. These fascist fanatics have done something never before seen in this country's history. We will find out who these vandals are, and they will be brought down with the full force of the law. According to the Brazilian media, the police have made over 170 arrests so far. The Senate Security Service said that it had arrested 30 people in the chamber. Most disturbingly, Bolsonaro supporters have been conducting protests outside of military bases, attempting to rile the service personnel into overthrowing the newly elected government. In another symbol of opposition to democracy, a journalist union said that at least 5 reporters were attacked, including the agency France Presse photographer who was beaten by protesters and had his equipment stolen. The riot took place after the previous regime of Bolsonaro lost the tightly contested election. Immediately after his loss, he fled the country to the American state of Florida to avoid persecution for the crimes he committed while in office. Some of these crimes included genocide conducted upon the indigenous population. This seems to be a pattern that we are seeing internationally now. As you recall, this is essentially the same thing that happened with the January 6th insurrection 2 years ago, this time repeated in Brazil, even having much of the same symbolism, the same statements, even having another QAnon shaman, the American flag replaced with the Brazilian flag. This is spreading. This kind of right-wing fascist attempted coups are continuing. Something very similar happened in Canada with the trucker protests, who claimed to be supporting freedom, yet they demanded to install an unelected leader to rule the country. Some of them even declaring themselves to be royalty. One woman declaring herself to be the Queen of Canada. This right-wing fascist backlash against some of the more progressive forces are very symbolic of the kind of struggle that is going on right now in many countries around the world. We have seen, Steve Bannon speak to many fascist forces in other countries, particularly Eastern Europe, where he's essentially trying to get them to turn into coups, to make a right-wing thing, and using all the same nonsense about globalists and homosexual agenda and, the same old right-wing nonsense that's used to scare themselves while saying everybody else lives in fear. It's proof positive that even the second world, or third world, depending on your particular opinion, that this is very possible there too, as we just witnessed. There is a global rise of fascism, not just in the US and in Canada and the UK and many other Eastern European countries. This is starting to manifest itself in second and third world countries as well. This is very similar to, capitalism being in crisis. And he said, fascism is capitalism in decay, as Lenin once said. And I think very much that's what we're seeing here right now. This growth of right-wing reactionary, fascism is a symbol of that. The question is, how are we supposed to combat that? The first thing we should do is remain vigilant.
Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.